Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Than a Business Live. My name is Mitch Case. I will be your host today. I am also the co-founder of an organization called More Than a Meal, where we help organizations strengthen their relationships with employees, clients, and other community members by showing gratitude, appreciation, and empathy one meal at a time. We started this podcast live show a little over a year, or not a year, half a year ago, 6 to 7 months ago, with the intent to really bring in leaders of organizations and organizations themselves that just do their business a little bit different. And a lot of that focus is really focusing in on the people of that organization versus just the profit of that organization. So I am blessed to be able to bring in amazing leaders in each of those organizations, interview them for about 30 minutes at a time every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time. So I am really excited to introduce our next guest. But before I go ahead and do that, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, True Captive. True Captive believes in healthcare that is personal and insurance that is not complicated. So if you do want to learn more about that unique captive healthcare program, go on over to their website at truecaptive.com. You can also reach out to myself and I'd be happy to get you guys introduced to them. So with that, I don't want to hide our guest any longer. This guest and I got connected on LinkedIn a handful of months ago. And after our first conversation, there's just a lot of synergies and energy just from our own belief systems, but as well as just as businesses running around trying to make good things happen. So I am excited to welcome Jonah to the show. Jonah, thank you so much for joining us today, man. How's I don't know if it's raining over there, but all we've been getting in the Midwest is just rain, and more rain.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mitch. Happy to be here. Excited to join you in your show, and congrats on all your success with this and your business as well. I know you and your wife took a little bit of a leap of faith to this, and y'all are just crushing it. So really happy for you. And yeah, it rained a ton last night, raining again tonight, and that's just kind of how it goes this time of year. But it's been good. That's why I've got the rain jacket on, just ready to go.
Yeah. I've stayed inside most of the day today, but I do appreciate the call out on this. It is a true joy for me to get access to individuals like yourself to be able to see what it is that you do differently. And so before we kind of jump into the actual show side of things, tell us a little bit more about what it is that Leadership Management International even does, and then what your role specifically is to help that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, want to say thank you for having me on. And what we do, we're an international leadership development company. So before you fall asleep listening to what that is, I'll share the exciting stuff of what we
Wake
do.
up, everybody.
Yeah, wake up. I promise it's good. It'll get better. No, what we do is we develop leaders and organizations to their full potential. And you say, okay, well, how? What do you do? So we implement leadership development programs inside of organizations in small groups of people, and we help people focus on their personal and professional goals. A lot of training companies and seminar, workshop, those kinds of things. It's we kind of talk at you for a few days or for a few hours or whatever it is. Even if it's long-term, it's usually like one corporate goal or something like that. Yeah. We take it a much more long-term process, and we allow people to set personal and professional goals that are completely unique to them. Because we believe that if an organization is full of people that are achieving their God-given potential personally and professionally, the entire organization is going to thrive. They're going to be motivated, empowered. They're going to be excited to do what they need to do and what they want to do. And so that's kind of what we do. We're in around 90 countries around the world. We've impacted over 2 million leaders since 1966 when we were founded. And I have the honor of being the president of our organization. I got promoted to president about a year ago. And it's a cool title, but at the same time, it really means nothing. All that means is I get to serve more people. And so we'll get into this later, but my faith plays a huge part in everything that I do. And so when I look at what is leadership, I think the best depiction we have of that is Jesus washing his disciples' feet. And so as a president, that just means I got a lot of feet to wash. That's kind of how I look at it. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that point of view from that too. And I know that was one of the big reasons why we connected when we first had a conversation too. So let's dive into the impact story side of things. So this is part where we really like to hear just like a positive impact story on what you guys have done within the organization itself to have a positive impact either on a team member or potentially even one of those that you serve as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely don't want to brag on anything we've done here. It's all about our people in the field that are making it happen. We have the honor of just hearing their success stories all the time. So my job's pretty fun.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones comes from Zimbabwe, actually. They
Okay.
have, I think, currently the highest inflation rate in the entire world. It's like 1,500%. And they're just about
1,500?
1,500%, not 15%, 1,500. So we're worried about 5 to 8%. We got nothing on them. And so our some of our team there, they're doing an amazing job. They are changing the world one leader at a time, solving these macro issues in
Oh my
their in
goodness.
their in their neck of the woods with little micro solutions. And recently, an organization there that's publicly traded went through some of our programs, and they were really nervous, with all the inflation, the currency changes, and having to bid on currency and all these different things, that they got so much success. And their people were so excited about it. They had to release a public press announcement saying, hey, we know our profits jumped up by this much. That was correct. It wasn't like a mistake on our, like
This
this really
was not a
happened.
clerical error.
Yeah. So that's like a money one, that's fun. But
Sure.
what's really fun is those same people. And also, this is what we hear all the time, is people join to have profit boosts like that. But then
Mhm.
like I said at the beginning, we help people to also set personal goals, not just professional. And
Mhm.
so we hear from these busy executives all the time or frontline workers or managers, directors, whatever, in all these different industries, Zimbabwe, UK, Canada, Australia, US, wherever. And it's just so interesting that all of us are dealing with the same things. It's, I'm working so much on this business that my spouse and I don't go on date nights anymore. I don't see my
Mm.
kids nearly as much as I would like to. And one thing we hear all the time is like, but I'm doing this for my kids. And we kind of have the pushback of like, I think your kids would love to see you though, right? Like,
Uh,
can you say you're doing this for them if you never see them? Like those kinds of things. And so we get to have these kinds of conversations with people in this business professional setting. A lot of these companies are very closed off. Their people don't know each other's personal details, but they get into our process and they set these profit goals and sales goals. And those are awesome. And if you don't have sales and you don't have revenue and profits, you're not going to stay open. But
right.
then when they get up and they share their results at the end, we hear time and time again, like my spouse and I, now we have a weekly date night, no matter what. And we haven't done that since, first few years of marriage. Or my kids and I, every Saturday we go out. I'm leaving the office by 5 every day, no matter what. I unplug and my phone's off when I get home, and I'm playing with my kids again for the first time. Or people with like weight loss goals, like these huge things that you wouldn't think would come from a leadership development. But those are the ones that people get really excited about. And so
Oh,
I wanted to zero in on one. So I gave the Zimbabwe example, but it's not fair to just zero in. Like, these are the kinds of things we get to hear every day, and it's so fun to see that. So that's been a lot of fun.
whew. That feels very fulfilling work. And, you know, you not knowing my entire story, I feel like I just got a little dose of reality, or what my own story was. Um, you know, 5, 6 years ago, as we started having our first kid, and being that, the provider of the family, and thinking that my sacrifice is going to be time away from the family because I need to go and provide in this certain way, climb this certain ladder to get to this point because I'm doing it all for my family. And in all reality, I was never around my family. Like, kind of interesting when
Yeah.
you do something for your family, but you're never there. It's counterintuitive when you almost look at it so like plain and simple from that perspective. So I definitely resonate with a lot of that, and hearing that that is the exact same challenge that other leaders across the world experience makes me, I don't know whether it's good or bad, but it makes me feel like I'm not alone in some of those areas too, which is energizing too. So, whew, all right, I really enjoy that, and I'm a little jealous that you get to hear some of those stories on a daily or weekly basis. But kudos to you for having that impact and that focus on that. So, that might have stole a little bit of the thunder for the next section of the show, where we really kind of talk about the business side of things. So, what truly makes leadership management international? Like, what makes it more than just a business? And maybe you have to get some other ideas than you've already shared from the positive impact side of things
Sure.
to help us really understand, like, what is it that truly makes it more?
Yeah, absolutely. So, not to sound too like stoic or whatever, but people talk about business all the time, and the cliche thing to say is like, well, what even is a business? But seriously, like, what is it? Like, it's just a conglomerate of people, right? It's just, so like, what is Leadership Management International? Like, if we didn't have any people out in the field changing lives, we wouldn't have Leadership Management International, right? And so I think for me, when it's like how are we more than a business? It's our people that are out there every single day. They're waking up and they firmly believe in what we do. And we have people that are selling and facilitating these programs and this concept and these processes around the world in some of the hardest places in the world. I mean, another example is whenever in Lebanon, they had the Beirut bombs that went off there. And that was a terrible situation.
Yeah.
And there was just so much tragedy there with so many things right after COVID and all these things. We heard stories about LMI representatives out there in the streets with our personal leadership programs saying we can't control all of this, but how can we impact each other and help each other through this? And in the middle of protests, people were like starting these small group discussions about like, hey, let's work on ourselves. How can we help each other? How can we serve? And those are the kinds of people we work with all over the place. It's every obstacle is just another opportunity to serve somebody. And so how is it more than a business? I really think we do not make money if we don't make an impact on someone. So our founder, Paul J. Meyer, he pretty much set up the business to say, we can't just talk the talk. If we're not walking the walk and actually serving people, our business will never make money. It will never happen.
Sure.
So if someone wants to be successful in LMI in what we do, we have to serve a lot of people. And I love how that works because so many companies say, well, look at our corporate purpose and our mission statement and all these things, but then your job never really has much to do with that. Where here, every single high payoff activity that you could possibly have that's going to produce the highest ROI all revolves around serving another person, every single one. And if you're not doing that, you will be doing low payoff activities. Absolutely. And so another thing too is the world is just full of noise now. I mean, there's so much information out there. There's so many books being published and shows to watch and social media posts out there. And these are all good things like what we're doing right now. This is awesome. Like we couldn't do this in the past. What a cool thing.
Right.
But the problem is, my hope is that someone doesn't just watch this and think they're going to change their lives. Like it's not going to happen. At some point, you actually have to do something, and doing something's really hard and it takes a really long time. And so our business, kind of referring back to Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he has an idea called the hedgehog concept. And it's know what you're really good at, which a hedgehog, it's like, I think if I remember correctly, it was like curling up in a ball, right? It was like, that was their thing. They do that one thing really, really well. So hopefully we're better. We have something better than that, right? But ours is our process. And we're like, with all the noise, with all the buzzwords, all these things out there that promise to be like, hey, you can growth hack, you can growth hack and mindfulness and all these things. Like none of this is new. Again, going back to scripture, my favorite thing is when I read a quote in a book, or there's a whole idea about like mindfulness and all these things. Like, have you ever heard of this? It's like, dude, they were talking about this 5,000 years ago. Come on, this is not new. This is not new. We just aren't practicing it. Like we don't need another new book on it. We just need to do something with it. And so what we do is help people do stuff with the knowledge that they have. And I think that's what makes us different. It's relieving because so many people have so much knowledge and so much information. With the rise in AI, we can get such fast information that's really good and it's accurate and it's helpful. But then we're almost so overwhelmed with it. We're like, well, now what? Now what do we do? And so our process is like, hey, it's going to be really long. It's going to take a lot of time. There's no hacks. There's no shortcuts. And you're going to probably not enjoy the first part of this, right? It's going to take some time. But you have to promise, you have to know that it's going to produce the results you want to see over the long term. And that's just going to take some time. And we deal with what we call the human condition, not these external things. And the human condition has not changed. It's just taken on new forms. And it has new words that describe it, but it's still the same. Our process deals with that. So the way we're more than a business is we deal with that. And we don't lie to people and say, well, there's a quicker way now. There's not. It's like, hey, no, it's still going to be really hard. But it's going to be worth it. If your goals are important enough to you. So I would say that's one of the ways. Hopefully that answered your question.
That absolutely does. I want to give a quick shout out right here. So as you're talking, Richard made a comment here. It seems like he's been with the LMI for many years here, but sounds like the system you guys have in place forces action to be taken in a little bit. So It's really interesting because, my story is as a mechanical engineer, kind of grew up in that space, did this for 10 plus years and was rewarded financially, but felt that I was missing time with the things that were most important to me by focusing on that and not my family at the time. And there was a video by Steve Harvey, the host of Family Feud, and he was just talking about this situation where if you never jump, the parachute never has a chance to even open up. And he talked about when you jump, that parachute will not open at the very beginning. You will probably bounce, scrape your knees, hit your head a couple times, but eventually, if you keep doing the actual work, eventually that parachute will open up and then you can start to soar. And I listened to that thing probably 3 months before I left my job to make sure my mind was ready to go into that, follow through with it, and take action on the outside after I had left. And I think without somebody, I wish I had known about LMI beforehand, because I think that would have put me in a position maybe even 3 years prior to when I had made that leap of faith. But knowing that you guys are out there doing that, making differences in the lives of those that can go out and represent you guys, but also the individuals that are being impacted. One of the things that I was kind of thinking of as you were talking, like you've mentioned a lot of um, foreign countries across the world. How do you, as a leader of the organization that makes this impact and it sounds like even richer, like how do you continue to have the same message across, I have to think, tens to hundreds of different languages across the world? How do you maintain that same message, that same, I'm going to use one of the buzzwords here, but like culture on what LMI is here in the States, here in Zimbabwe? How do you maintain that component of the organization?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's what's changed a lot since COVID for us. Everyone is like, the whole world's changed. Like, talk about buzzwords, right? Like, it's like, yeah, we're all going through a shift, and it's like, yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
everyone's going through a shift. All right. We got it.
Yes. Yeah.
And but we really did. And it was kind of like, we used to meet in person all the time, and we tried to get together, but it was hard to stay connected. And cross-border communication was happening, but not nearly as much as it could, and all these different things. And we had a really good culture for years and years and years and years. But one thing that we really tried to zero in on and focus from our side, from like the corporate side, was how can we create more opportunities for our people to actually just meet together online and talk and get to know each
Yeah.
other better.
Okay.
And what we found is all these people they're servant hearted. They want to serve people. They love people well. They care for them, and they're really good at business. So it's like, oh yeah, and they do business well, which is awesome. That's good. But the first things, you can be not good at business and care for people and love people well and have a really good business.
Amen.
But if you care for people well and love people well, and you are good at business as well, oh man, like that's
Yeah.
pretty exciting stuff, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think what we've seen is when we create that opportunity for our people to just get together and they get to work together and share their ideas and their takeaways. Hey, this is what's working. This is what's not working. And those things, we just see people share with each other. Again, the idea of they're not just serving their clients, they all serve each other. We have some people I'll shout out in the US, like Nancy Eichstad, Jeff Johnson, some of these people, and there's a lot more. Those are just two people that come to mind right now.
Yeah.
That they always, hey, I did this and it's worked really well. Here's this whole document I created. Y'all don't reinvent the wheel. Here you go.
Take
And they
it
send it out,
run
and they're
with it.
sharing it with people
Wow.
that are quote unquote selling in their territory in the US. And they're like, oh, no, it's okay. We'll share with you. And so these people aren't like, what's mine is mine. It's my piece of the pie. You better stay away. Absolutely. Absolutely not. It's like, no. We all want to help. We all want to help each other. And so it's not something that like I've done or the home office has done. All we've done is we know our people and we trust them so much that we're like, all we got to do is open up the Zoom link and let them run, and they're going to probably do amazing with each other, right? So
I
it's
got
not
to
like we're
get
having
out of
to
the way.
yeah, 100%. And it goes to back to serving, right? It's just we see our job is how can we support our people do what they need to do, and what
Mhm.
they need to do is serve a lot of people. So if we serve the people that are serving, it's going to go pretty well. And we've
Yeah.
seen that to be true, especially since COVID. It's just figuring out what's the best way to do that. And I think so much of the world is so concerned with a recession or all these different things happening that they're all trying to say like, I got mine, so everyone stay away. We're
Mhm.
like, yeah, what a terrible attitude to have. If we want to help people and we believe that let's expand the pie, help everyone to reach their God-given potential in all areas of life, or whether it be business or personal, whatever. And so that's how we maintain the cultures. Let's just stay true to those core tenets, focus
Yeah.
on those, not get caught up in all the external stuff, and we're going to be just fine.
I sit there and think, like, obviously, like, that gets bred down into those individuals from what you guys do from the leadership side of things, and breeding a desire or a culture of abundance mentality versus the scarcity mentality. That mind shift for, I think, so many individuals, even within organizations. So even if you are just a team member of an organization, it's not your own business, and you view things out of abundance versus scarcity. I can't promise that things would happen the right way for you, but it just clears your mind from a perspective to be more creative, collaborative, and raise all ships versus silo yourself, put yourself in this hole by yourself. It gets dark down there every once in a while. So
Yeah, it does.
I can definitely see and appreciate what you guys are building there to maintain that, to where an individual that is finding success in their own territory is willing to share that with others selling into their own territory with this exact same model and system. But because they know and trust what you guys have taught, they can be in the abundance mindset. And that's such an important thing. I think for these organizations that are trying to build their own solid culture, retain their existing talent, and increase their revenue by bringing on new people as well. So, Jonah, I want to sit and talk with you so much more on so many of these little details on what you guys have developed. It's very interesting to me. But we do have a time limit on this show, so we got to keep moving forward on this. But now we kind of want to jump into the time where we talk about you. Um, I know as a business owner and leader, I know that every single day is not, 100% of ourselves that we're bringing to the table. So what is it about you personally that continues to motivate you to show up when maybe it's not your best day, or maybe it is your best day, but what is it that keeps motivating you to show up and serve the people you're blessed to serve?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's so many things that I could say there. One, I wanted to circle back real quick. You said the word abundance, and I want to make something very clear. If my biggest problem with anyone in like the quote unquote self-help industry, they'll preach this idea of abundance. That's just not true. Abundance doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You may never get what you want. And life may be hard. Sometimes you get cancer and things look really bad. And I
Yeah.
think it's a slap. And you're not saying this. I'm just saying when people hear that word, I don't want them to go to this place. Like I've just had too many friends that got sick and they passed away. And
Mm,
they had an abundance mindset, but sometimes life
sure.
happens and life is
Oh
not
yeah.
perfect. And we can get in more into that. And we can't, our business is not one of those self-help things where if you just work with us and keep paying us money, your life's going to be amazing. No, not at all. But we can help you handle the guaranteed challenges that are coming. You're either
Yes.
entering into a valley or you're coming out of one, always. And if you're
Yeah.
coming out of one, you're going to enter into another one at some point. That's not negative. That's just facts.
Sure. Sure.
And so I just want to make sure when we talk about abundance that people don't think it's wealth and prosperity. Absolutely not. Try telling that to the mom that has 6 kids and is working 3 jobs,
Amen.
and those are some of the hardest workers we've ever seen, right? And they may not have quote unquote abundance, but their kids are going to respect them like crazy, and I would say that's pretty abundant, right? So
Yeah.
so I just want to make sure we're clear on that. I don't want anyone to
I
hear that.
appreciate you clarifying that, because I didn't even think through that as that was coming out of my mouth in that perspective. But I definitely appreciate that. Abundance definitely doesn't mean equal or necessarily fair or just money from that perspective. Abundance can
100%.
be so many different ways in your description of, that single parent that is doing all the different things, whether it's abundance in time with family, abundance in other areas. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for reframing that in a way that doesn't sound like you just do it and everything is perfect.
Everything's gonna be great. It's like, nope, not gonna happen. It's probably gonna get when you do the right things, a lot of times life finds a way to make it a little harder on you. So if anything,
Uh,
it's gonna be hard. So, but your
yes.
question about like what's my motivation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I may be one of the stranger guests you've had because again, my faith plays just such a big role in this that I think my best day here is gonna be my worst day after I'm gone.
Mhm.
So if I'm having a bad day, it's like this isn't gonna last forever. And
Yeah.
if I have a great day, it's like this is only a glimpse of what's coming. So I'm not worried about it. And so
Mm.
I have this kind of peace of mind that surpasses any understanding. If a sale falls through, big whoop, it's going to be fine. I've got two little boys at home that I love so much, and they motivate me. My wife motivates me. I love my wife and my kiddos and those things. But at the same time, my kids mess up, my wife messes up, I mess up, we all make mistakes. So if my motivation is something that's not perfect, it's when that fails, if that's my motivation, good luck. I'm going to have really hard days. But if my motivation is something that's perfect, then I can lean on that and trust in that and have hope in that, right? And so that's why, yeah, my worst days are going to be fine. I've had some really hard battles with like mental health in the past and depression and
Yeah,
different things, but and everyone's experience of that is different. So I don't want to say
sure,
this is a
sure.
blanket
All
statement, but for
relative. Yeah,
me, I couldn't have gotten through it without the idea that I know that this is making me become something. And so another thing I come back to is the idea that we're all becoming something, whether we like it or not. We
Mm.
we're much more brainwashable than we think we are. So if we're watching Netflix all the time, we're on social media all the time, all these things, whatever we're taking in, if we're watching the news, whatever, we're going to become like what we're watching. The people we're around, we're going to become like that. And
Mm.
so I try to make sure that what I'm intaking is who directly correlates to who I'm trying to be. So I've
Yeah,
deleted all social media off my phone, all those kinds of things. I don't want any of it. It's a waste of time. I've seen what it's done to so many people. I'm like, nah, I don't need that. So if I do it, it's whatever. But my big motivation, which again, strange guest here, but
not at all,
I'll
Jonah. Not at all.
and do we have time for me to tell one story? Do we have
You
time for
got
that?
it. Yep, yep.
Okay,
I'll cut
okay.
you off when we got to go.
Cool. So my big story is it's in a book called Practicing the Way by my favorite author named John Mark Comer. And he talks
Yes.
about these Benedictine monks and what they used to do to remind themselves that how to be motivated for the day. And they kept a skull on their desk. I do not have one on my desk. All right. I'm not that weird. Okay. But this idea, they kept a skull on their desk. And when they would walk in every day, they would look and say, that's where I'm going one day. So I better do what I'm called to do today because that's coming.
Yeah.
And back then, people experienced death a lot more than we do now. Society has hidden us from it. We don't see it. We put sick people in hospitals and we never see them again, nursing homes, those kinds we don't see it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big tragedy. We need to be reminded of the fact that this is short
Yeah.
and business is short. You can serve 50 years at a company. When you retire, they're going to hire someone else and the company's going to go on. And
Yep.
you have a legacy and it's going to keep going. And so the legacy you leave is way more important than the work that you're doing. And so every component of life with your kids, your work, your spouse, all those things, that's my motivation. It's like, what is going to be true after I'm way gone? Hundreds of
Yeah.
years from now, what's going to be true? And so my motivation is, okay, I'm going to be gone one day. I'm young. Hopefully I got a little time left,
Let's
but
go.
I'm going to
Yeah.
be gone one day.
Yep.
And
One
so
thing we're all promised.
what's being left to people? I want to leave everything better than I found it. And my job is not to reap all of the seeds; it's to sow them. And so
Mhm.
with every client, with every team member, with every interaction with my kiddos, with my wife, friends, whatever it is, we're trying to sow seeds that I may never see the fruit from, but years and years and years and years, generations from now, something's being reaped, and maybe I had a small part in that. And
Mm.
we're missing out on that if we don't jump in with that. So that's my motivation. And again,
I
strange
man,
guest, but that's
no,
my
not at
answer.
all. I mean, that's just speaking truth. I think, I mean, I agree with so much of that, and it's a really unique perspective that you do bring to the table, especially like the good days and bad days. You're able to work through those in a way that this is just a glimpse of what I'm getting on those best days, and on the worst days, it'll pass.
Yep.
Really, really fast. We want to gift you a meal to be able to send to somebody. It does have to be within the states though. But would love to understand maybe who and why you would like to give that gift in about 20 seconds or less, and then we got to kick it.
Yeah, so I can't say who yet.
Okay.
We'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
But this is someone that I've just seen serve and serve and serve and washing a lot of feet, to go back to my metaphor at the beginning.
Yes.
And the people that wash the feet need to be appreciated every once in a while. So that's why they deserve
Amen.
a little gift.
Amen. Jonah, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and being such an open and just very appreciative individual and a leader that is truly out there washing feet, as you have mentioned so many times. So thank you so much for spending time on here and sharing that with us and our viewers and guests that have been on here in the past. We're going to go ahead and take off here. But Jonah, I've got a lot of things that we want to talk about afterwards as well. So for those of you that are tuning in, please come back. We'll be back next Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time. We've got Chris Metzler. He's the president of Progressive Electronics. He'll be in here next week. But until next time, keep sowing those seeds, keep washing those feet, and come back and be better as you can be each and every day. So with that, Jonah, we're out, man. See ya.
Thanks, Mitch. See ya.